Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day, great start to your week. Got you some updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise between now and the next 24 hours, so we'll cover that first. We'll talk about the weather for today into tonight. A couple little things to speak on. We got a clipper that's going to dive down to the Great Lakes region, upper Midwest, bring a little bit of snow. Could have some backside snow. In fact, it's already falling out there this morning across southern New England. Could get a burst of snow in like southeast Mass later this afternoon, this evening. Not going to be a big deal at all. The middle of the country is going to be very quiet, and even the western U.S. is going to be pretty quiet. But I think a lot of things change as we get deeper into this week. And of course, we will speak on that for the back half of this video. And speaking of that, we will give you updated information on this winter storm potential. It's not really a potential. You likely are going to get a big time winter storm across the west. I mean, we could even get winter weather across like the eastern Rockies. Like, you know, we got to watch Denver, for example, like the Front Range. I think there's a lot of weather coming for the west. I think as our southern stream gets very active, we're just going to have a lot of rain in the lower elevations. Could become a flooding issue and just a parade of storms that I think really gets going later this week. Now, what a lot of people are wondering is, what about this energy that kind of screeches across the south, meets up with some cold air to the northeast? Are we going to have some sort of winter weather threat across the Carolinas, the mid-Atlantic, southeast? That's what we need to figure out. We'll talk about the latest trends in this video and break it all down for you folks. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I want to say thank y'all for the prayers with last night, with becoming a deacon. It went well. I don't have any complaints or anything. You know, it was very smooth. I felt like God was with me. He helped me through it. It was a little intimidating. I was talking in front of 40, 50 people. So it went really well. I have to do it again. But thank you all for the prayers for that. It's very appreciated. I love the atmosphere on this channel. You guys are awesome, and thank you so much. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. I will get caught up with all the comments throughout the weekend a little bit later this afternoon. I am very behind again, but I will get caught up. So let's get rocking and rolling. So as you can tell, there's not a whole lot going on across the lower 48 this morning. I mean, we have energy diving out of Canada. It's going to move into the Great Lakes region. That's our clipper we've kind of been talking about a little bit. We'll give you some updated information on that. That will bring, you know, a little bit of snow across the Great Lakes region. We'll speak on that. And then the back end of this system is kind of sweeping through New England. This will likely deliver a little bit of light accumulations across southern New England throughout the day. I don't think it'll be a big deal. The middle of the country, pretty quiet. Western U.S., pretty quiet. It's warmer out here. So, you know, the jet's digging out west, like out west as in the Pacific Ocean. But there's a ridge basically building over the western and central portion of the country all the way up to Canada. So therefore, all of our energy is kind of screeching into Canada. You're getting a little bit of rain in extreme northwestern sections of Washington, but it's a very warm setup out west for sure. So that's what's going on right now. Storms, there's no thunderstorms forecast for today. A pretty stable environment across the entire lower 48. And even with any kind of flash flooding risk, it's below 5%, not even showing up on the map, so we don't have that to worry about. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Some more fog across the Midwest that we're dealing with these dense fog advisories. Some flood watches still remain in place for northwestern sections of Mississippi. And we do have the winter weather alerts up here for the Northeast. Winter weather advisories, still some lingering winter storm warnings. We'll see if they'll issue some winter weather advisories in southeast Mass today. If, you know, the trends like on radar, you know, indicate more of a heavier burst of snow that could, you know, dump a couple inches of snow really quickly here in southeast Mass, maybe Rhode Island. We'll see how that evolves later this afternoon, later this evening. And then we continue the winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings for the higher elevations of the southern Alps, but these will expire throughout the next several hours. We do have some high wind watches up ahead of a parade of storms in southern Oregon and northern California, the middle of the country, central and eastern Rockies, northern plains, high plains, pretty quiet. Let's talk about the southeast first. We'll be able to kind of blitz through this very, very fast. And we'll work our way through this portion of the video pretty quickly. So southeast today, pretty quiet, kind of back to late January type temperatures, cool day. It's definitely not going to be as warm this week than it was last week for the southeast. But we get into this afternoon, and there's just nothing to speak on. It's very quiet this evening, overnight hours, all the way into Tuesday morning, and it's very quiet weather. Maybe nobody even gets a drop of anything in the southeast, flake of anything, except in the higher elevations of North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. You're dealing with those lingering snow showers this morning. Northeast could be a tricky setup today, as the leftovers of this system's about to pull out. We could have this other low that sort of forms right here. Well, it's already formed. Throws back some precipitation far enough west to where you get a period of light to moderate snow in Rhode Island, maybe extreme eastern Connecticut, maybe even the extreme eastern sections of Long Island. You could get a period of wet snow later this afternoon. We'll see what happens. This could get thrown all the way back into Boston. You might get an inch or two of wet snow here in southeast Mass. It's very possible. This kind of lingers around. I mean, maybe even Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Cape Cod could get, some very light accumulations, very possible. And even some flurries could get thrown a little bit further back here into western sections of southern New England, but not a big deal. Maybe some flurries overnight in New York City, and by the time we are getting into Tuesday morning, we could still be dealing with some flurries flying around New York City. Not a big deal, but as you can tell on your other side of your screen, we got this clipper diving in, and by the time we're waking up Tuesday morning, could have some snow entering the northwest corner of Ohio. But we'll stop it right there. South central U.S., another quiet day. Just as quiet today as it was yesterday. I mean, nothing really going on whatsoever. So there's your 10 seconds of fame. I don't even know if that was 10 seconds. The north central U.S., here comes the clipper energy. Could start off with some rain in sections of the UP, but then we start to get some snow flying around, especially in the central to especially the eastern UP of Michigan later this evening. Some snow begins to fall, gets into lower Michigan. Snow begins to make its way pretty much north to south across lower Michigan. Could get some moderate to maybe at times heavy snow flying around in northern Michigan. And this continues. By the time we get into Tuesday morning, this snow is starting to get all the way down to northern and northeast sections of Indiana. I think, this system still isn't a very cold system. It's bringing kind of its own cold air. And we're kind of waking up tomorrow morning with some snow flying around in southeast Michigan. Could get some snow that moves into Detroit. I am very sorry, Detroit fans. I was pulling for you folks. No offense to my San Francisco fans. What a brutal way to lose that game. I went to bed at halftime and woke up and saw that San Fran had made the comeback. So I know it was a nice run. Not to get on a football tantrum here, but congrats for making it as far as y'all did, but that's got to be heartbreaking the way that you guys lost like that. But anyways, snow, begins to, kind of make its way through Ohio, but not a big event at all. Just that has been the common theme in Ohio, even Indiana, just light events, nothing substantial so far this winter. But snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, just a couple inches of wet snow looks like to be the common theme in central to eastern and northern sections of Michigan. I think southwest Michigan won't get too much out of this, but central to especially the eastern UP gets maybe an inch or two of wet snow. Not a big deal at all with this. Western U.S. is pretty quiet conditions out there this morning, and it'll stay quiet throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, and then as we get later into the overnight hours, some rain finally moves into the western sections of Washington and Oregon, but I think it'll be confined to northwest Oregon. But this system is not going to be a big deal at all. It's really as we start to get into about midweek, this is when we start to get just a parade of storms out west. Between now and the next 24 hours, the only area of the west that's going to see any kind of moisture is, western sections of Washington and then northwestern sections of Oregon. So, temperatures, a chilly day across the Ohio Valley, Midwest. You start to get into, western sections of the Midwest, though, like into the plains. I mean, it's definitely not chilly for the last couple of days of January for you guys' standards. This is well above average, but it will be a chilly day across Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, down to Tennessee, even across the deep south. Might not get out of the 40s again. Warm day across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. I mean, places in Kansas and Oklahoma could hit 70 degrees. Pretty nice day. Much cooler in Florida, southeast. Typical kind of average conditions. Maybe some areas are slightly below average. Some areas maybe a tick above. But in general, around average. The western U.S., well above average. I mean, sheesh, you're getting all the way up into the 60s up into Canada. Man, definitely a thaw out here for sure. I mean, it's going to someone's probably going to get to the low 80s down here in the Southwest. Just well above average across the central and the western U.S. as a ridge is in place. Speaking of ridging, speaking of troughing, so we'll go over this again. I think it's important to kind of revisit this over and over again, so that's what we'll do. So the blues on your screen is lower pressure, and if you don't know what we're doing now, we're kind of transitioning to the pattern the rest of the week into this weekend. So we're going to cover a couple things. We're going to cover the parade of storms going to enter the west, moving to the eastern U.S., well, central U.S., and then potentially give us a winter weather threat across the eastern, maybe southeastern U.S., mid-Atlantic. Okay, so we'll start it right here. There's our big system as we are getting into Tuesday morning, sort of moving off the coast of the eastern U.S. If you see this little area right in here, you see how it kind of dips? That is our northern stream energy, already bringing precipitation into the Great Lakes region. So you kind of keep this going. There it is. It connects right here. You can see the blue, which is lower pressure. Typically cooler than average temperatures. The reds is ridging, typically above average temperatures, more stable conditions. Okay, and that's why it's so warm out west and in the central U.S. You got a ridge influencing the pattern. So you still got this area of lower pressure right here off the coast of the eastern U.S. And this isn't just going to head on out. This is actually going to form another low and bring what we call 50-50 low in place that could deliver cold air for something later this weekend into the eastern U.S. Same time, you see the lower pressure out in the Pacific. This is about to crank up that parade of storms I keep mentioning. So we keep this going, and we get to about right here. All right. Still got this lower pressure off the coast. There's that northern stream clipper that sort of turns into a low off the coast of the eastern U.S. At the same time, lower pressure is about to set up shop and start moving down here. We got the ridge built over Canada, okay, like this. And we got some sort of low that's probably about to form right into here. That's going to be our 50-50 low. All right, so this is why above average temperatures will continue to dominate all the way up into Canada. But the pattern is going to change. Keep this going here. And there it is. You see all the blue that kind of just pops up out of nowhere in the Gulf of Mexico down here in Mexico, Texas. That's lower pressure beginning to get going. Now, another thing you see right here is kind of an embedded area of energy right here. Sort of connects to this lower pressure, becomes lower pressure, develops some sort of low right here. We call it a 50-50 low because it's at 50 longitude, 50 latitude. It's basically the placement of where it is here in the northern hemisphere. All right, so stop it right here again. Same thing. Lower pressure screeching across down here. And you see the more of these colors, like in the whiter blue colors, even though it looks like kind of a shade of yellow and green, that is probably indicating some sort of storm system that's going to sort of get going across here. Big tall ridge over the central sections of Canada, and then the drastic dip down here. That is our lower pressure right into here. We're probably going to get some sort of low right here. This is high pressure. Okay. Now, you keep this going. Parade of storm systems. I mean, it's just going to be one after the other, I think. This is getting into Saturday morning, okay? February the 3rd. Tall, spiking ridge all the way up into Canada. Low right here. Dramatic dip in the jet right here. And then we get a clear detachment from one storm to the other. So we got a big storm right out here, moving into the western U.S., and then we got a storm moving across the southern Rockies into Texas, starting to move into the deep south and, just the southern tier of the country. Sunday morning. So you look at this. You look at this pattern now. All right, you got the ridge right here. If you want winter weather in the southeastern U.S., the eastern U.S., you're gonna have to get this a little bit probably further back west. All right, but you got the low right here. You got the high right here. Remember we talk about how flow around high pressure goes like this. Right? Kind of goes like that. I'm just going to keep it going like that. Flow around low pressure goes like this in the northern hemisphere. Just like that. So, if you notice, this arrow is going that way, and this arrow is kind of going that way. So, they're kind of working in tandem. And what's going on is, and this arrow isn't going to be exactly where it kind of comes from, but, you're getting both currents sort of trying to pull down cold air into this region right into here from the northern portion of the world, the Arctic up here. Not a ton of cold air, but I mean, it's pulling down Arctic air down into this lower pressure right into here, which is bringing moisture, bringing precipitation into this region. All right, so we call this a 50-50 low, and this high is helping to aid a current of cold air down into this moisture. It's hard to see on this. It's hard to see on anything unless you just, physically actually see the colder colors on some of these maps. But that's what's driving this. It's a very complex, sensitive setup. I mean, any kind of setup when you're trying to get winter weather in the south is. But you keep this going, if it'll keep going for me. Here we go. And there's that system right here. And I should have drew all that in this frame right here. This is next Monday morning, so a week from today. And I'll say that, guys, a lot of things are going to change with this. And I'm going to talk about the changes in this video, which, my winter weather fans are not going to like. I woke up and did not like it either, but we are pretty far out still, relatively speaking. Ridge right in here, low right in here, funneling in some kind of cold air in here. How cold is the cold air funneling into this monster of a storm system that could be in place? Another big system moving it into the west. We'll stop it right there. Another great way to look at this is this just shows energy. There's our clipper right there. You can see the vibrant colors, or if you even call that vibrant, the greens and the yellows and the oranges. There's our clipper that kind of dives down into here. And then here comes our low, another system that sort of dives down too. Not as aggressively far south, but it dives down and sort of kickstarts this 50-50 low right in here. So at the same time, you see all the energy entering Southern California, and you've got this omega block. You see how it kind of goes like that, like just screeches north. That's an omega block. So you got all this energy that basically undercuts this ridge. Here it comes, 50-50 low, kind of spinning around right here. And this is trying to throw some cold air into all this energy you see in the south. Now, do we get some sort of connection with this northern stream energy and this huge area of southern stream energy? That's a big player too, folks. But that's what it looks like here. This area of low is kind of yanking in down cold air. It's a cold air source. So that's what the energy looks like, as far as energy. Now on paper, what does it look like? You keep going here, and there's our clipper that we keep talking about. It's going to influence our weather over the next 48 hours. I would say even the next 72 hours. And there it is, turns into a stronger low off the coast of the Carolinas. And then look at all the moisture that starts to move into the western U.S. This could be a big system. It really could. It's going to bring rain for everybody in California, snow in the higher elevations, and there could become, a big flooding threat in California as we get this parade of kind of El Nino storms that slams the western U.S. So we can't just ignore our folks in the western U.S. I know I talk a lot on the central and eastern U.S., but this could become a big deal later this week into this weekend for our friends out west. So we keep this going. You notice there's just a lot of energy over the northeastern U.S. And that is because we just got energy that gets kind of stuck right here because it's kind of anchored in with high pressure. It's sort of just spinning around. Could just be kind of a few day period of just on and off snow showers, things like that. Here comes our system moving into the central portion of the country. Looks like this kind of takes more of a southerly track, so it looks like our folks in the northern plains, not as much moisture. This could deliver some sort of winter weather event for like Denver. Snow for areas of Colorado, New Mexico, and just the central and southern Rockies. Now, I'm not saying it ain't going to snow in the northern Rockies. It looks like it's more confined to the southern areas. But this brings a storm Saturday morning. Here it is. I mean, this is undercutting this ridge. This could change, but there's no cold air really making this snow across Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. It's all rain. And this continues to march, and this turns into a pretty juiced up low. It looks like you got a 997 low right in here. Does some weird stuff here. There's a low right here. There's our cold air feed. You can see the cold air from the 540 line. The first thing you notice is, over the last couple of videos, this 540 line was a little bit further south. So it looks like cold air, could be becoming an issue. It's hard to call anything trends when we're this far out. But if there is a trend, it's a less cold air feed, which, in my opinion, is worrisome for if you're a winter weather fan because, trust me, you don't want to be dealing with a cold air issue. You much rather at this range be dealing with a suppression issue. Suppressing means this storm is bogged down by such a push of cold air and high pressure that, you know, we'll rely on 1 or 2 or 3 days before the storm for it to trend northwest, which I would say 90% of the time it at least trends somewhat northwest. But this time, here comes the Euro. There's still cold air coming down. You can see how these blue lines, which indicate, let's think of that as colder air, it's coming down. And it's preventing this from really cutting and like becoming a big system for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. You got just rain falling across the Carolinas. And we got a lot, look at this, another system moving out west. But the cold air just gets there too late. It does. It kind of gets there, but it gets there too late. And it's just not as potent either. So, you know, you look at the GFS, and you got to, and one thing to note too, is my folks in the mid-Atlantic, even the Northeast, are not out the woods with this system either. They really aren't. You know, the further north you get, the less of a cold air issue you got. Here comes our clipper moving across the eastern U.S. Here comes our big system moving out west. A lot of rain, a lot of snow, depending on your elevation. You know, here comes the GFS Saturday morning, delivering what looks like a winter storm across like areas of Colorado. Look at all this rain overspraying the middle of the country. This looks to primarily be rain. And then here comes our system. It's coming in, it's coming in. Here comes another system entering the west. And let's go on and zoom in. I want to show you what the GFS does. We're going to talk a little bit heavier on the GFS because I want to show you something. This is Sunday afternoon. You got precipitation moving into the picture in the eastern U.S. Cold air still a little bit too far away. It's just cold enough for maybe the higher elevations of the southern Alps seeing some winter weather. And this looks like just a lot of rain as we are getting into Monday morning. A little bit of a mix in the mountains maybe. You know, we can't speak on this in absolutes because it's still far out. You got a nice placement of a low. And really what happens here is you almost get some sort of upper level low feature. Then you start to get some cold air involved. But I mean, it's already all the way in Monday evening at this point. I mean, we're still 7.5 days out. Cold air has really not came down and really been introduced into the system. But as this is pulling out, you know, it tries to crash the column. And at this point, I mean, it's trying to show snow down here south of Augusta, which is weird. But this is Tuesday morning, so it looks like the timing of this system is being even more kind of everywhere. But this is like Tuesday morning, for example. And then you look at temperatures for Tuesday morning. You got like rain falling in like the mid to low 30s. You see how you got this cold air. But you know, this run is just showing rain. Trying to show some mixture here too. So it looks like a very long duration storm. And man, let me tell you, if there was enough cold air into this could be a massive winter storm. And I'm not saying that this, you know, stick a dagger in this setup, it's over. But I'm saying the trends, I would say the trends started yesterday, kind of after I made the morning video. And there have been steady trends over the last 12 to 18 hours. I would say 12 hours of just a less cold air feed. Now, I mean, guys, we're still very far out. But, you know, you look at things here and you look at the European ensemble. There's that strong signal for snow across the Rockies. I mean, it is very loud. You're really going to start to add up snow. And then here comes our signal for the eastern U.S. You know, a closer look at the Rockies. That's a lot of snow out there. Adding up, Sierra Nevada is going to start to get a lot of snow. And then just precipitation in general. Look at this in California. Let's get a little bit closer. Look at all this rain starting to move into California. You guys are going to see some issues. This is through about, you know, 8 or 9 days out. This is a lot of rain. Now we move to our folks back into the eastern U.S. Let's go all the way just to the southeast. And let's go back to winter weather here. And there's our signal. And I would say this is our signal because the storm doesn't go that far out. And it's weaker. You know, you compare this to, you know, there's still a signal, guys. But you compare this to 12Z, and I mean, it's not a huge difference. It's just a little bit more broad. You compare it, well, we don't have OOZ, but, you know, it definitely looks different. It's not as strong is the first thing you'll notice, but you can tell there's some members that are still suppressed, bringing snow down here. What about the GFS ensemble? We'll take more of just the broad look at this for the western U.S., but as you can tell, a lot of snow. Obviously, heavy rain in the lower elevations, a lot of snow out west. And there's our signal for the southeast. All right, we'll go on and dive into this here. And there it is. It's definitely not as loud. It's still a nice signal from North Carolina. In fact, North Carolina, I think has a higher signal. Yeah, I mean, there's areas of North Carolina that has a higher signal than it did from the OOZ run. But, you know, if you look at South Carolina, it drops off. So, and I think that this is just because you're getting more of a cold air issue in the latest model guidance. And folks, you know, we look at what's really going on here. This is temperatures 850 millibars temperature Celsius. So this is basically the 32 degree line, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air, which is huge to look at. I don't think people realize how big of a deal temperatures above our heads are when it comes to winter weather. Yeah, I mean, sure, you know, temperatures at the surface is a big deal. But guys, you can have temperatures at 35 degrees. And if your temperatures are colder above your head, like, you know, basically if the temperatures are dropping above your head and there's no what we call a warm nose, you know, you can what we call crash the column and you can get snow in the mid 30s. So that 32 degree line is basically where this sort of this color right here in the purple, bluish color goes to white. That is our 32 degree line. And you notice how this is a 5-run trend from Monday morning the 5th. You notice how it kind of retreats to the north right in here. That tells us that over the last few runs for at least the Monday morning time frame. Now, you get into Tuesday morning, maybe you get some cold air that wraps back in behind the storm. But, I mean, that's hearsay at this point. So, it tells us that we're dealing with an issue with a cold air feed now. And we got to tweak that. So, I know there's people probably going to say what they got to say in the comments. But it's important, guys. It's important to always come back for updates. And, you know, always say, hey, not a forecast, not a forecast, not a forecast. And I come on here and I give you the updated information. I tell you why it changes. But it's important not to just get so hopeful for this stuff. Now, be positive. Be positive. No point to be negative. Be positive, because I'm staying positive. I think whatever happens in early February here in the next several days, I think is a bonus compared to what we're going to see. And I'm about to talk about that here in a second. But, you know, don't, I'm trying to find the right words for this. You know, don't, if you see me show snow over your house, please don't think of it as a forecast and tell everybody and your cousin's grandma's dog that it's going to snow next Tuesday. It's important not to do that. It really is, guys. And, you know, it doesn't matter how less that I show that, how more I show it. People are going to do it regardless. And I realized that a long time ago talking about weather. But anyways, we get past this system, and let's say it doesn't do squat for the southeast. All right. The pattern that evolves, I think we do get a quick warm-up sometime probably at the end of next week. But listen, I've talked about this over the last several days. The long-range pattern, as we get into mid-February, continues just to look absolutely beautiful. This is something that has been showing up for a while now. And, you know, as we get, you know, we're getting into the 13th, 14th, 15th of January, this time frame right here has been showing up on the models consistently. You got this ridge over Canada, ridge all the way up into Alaska. You got an active southern stream. You got this dip in the jet digging down here. Cold air feeding to the eastern U.S. This screams winter storm threats across the eastern U.S. So if this system does not, and I mean it continues all the way through late February, all the way into early March. So if we do not get anything from this system, because I know I got a lot of people tuning in from the eastern and southeastern U.S., do not give up hope. I really think this early February has always been a bonus setup. It really has. So is Mitch waking up a little bummed that the model runs kind of don't look as great? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I am. I'm a passionate weather guy, but I've been here, done that. I have. And I've lived here in South Carolina and the Carolinas my entire life, so I know how it goes. But the thing is we're still 7 days out from the storm, and two things can come from this. One, we completely trend away from any winter weather, and we save ourselves heartbreak for it trending away 1 or 2, 3 days before the system. And then 2, we continue to track this. It continues to show some life, and then suddenly we do get some sort of event out of this. I think you need to really still watch out for the Mid-Atlantic for sure. So we still need to watch this. We still do. So that's all I got. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll get you guys a really good update in this evening's video. We're still full steam ahead. We'll continue to figure this one out. God bless all y'all, and have a great Monday.